Good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Abdullah Laghari. I'm working as an associate professor at the Department of English, Quaid-e-Awam University of Engineering, Science and Technology. I welcome you all to this glorious conference. In my today's keynote talk, I will talk about and will share the rich insights on international relations and global governance. Now, when we talk about the international relations and global governance, when you look at the crisis in the world, it was a time when there were two great world wars that had created chaos in the world. And everyone, individuals, women, young children, the old, they were looking for one thing because millions of innocent lives were taken away. All the stakeholders in the world, even, they were looking for one thing, that was peace. And, some sort of change came, some sort of realistic, that was a sort of thinking started. They thought of creating peace. They thought of restoring peace so as to create insecurity, so as to make lives on the sound footing. So let's discuss about, the international relations, what they are. International relation actually is the study of how sovereign states, international organizations, and non-state actors interact on the global stage. The field investigates conflict, diplomacy, trade, and global governance to understand how political and economic dynamics shape our interconnected world. Why I talked about the chaos or issues or the World War wars, because, at the time it was a diplomacy that had worked. When you talk about international relations, it's all about global governance. It's all about conflict management. It's all about diplomacy. It's all about security concerns, and it's all about trade. When we talk about the core pillars of international relations, the very first one is national interest, and then foreign policy, diplomacy, global governance. In international relations, the national interests are always kept at priority. And then, keeping national interests in mind, foreign policy is decided and designed, and finally, that is implemented. That foreign policy is always long-lasting and permanent, so that even if the governments change, but the policy has to remain the same one, so as to achieve the interests and objectives that a common mass are the people are looking for, or that is actually the national interest. And for that, diplomacy always works. Now, when we talk about national interest, for example, they are actually the primary goals and objectives a country pursues in relation to other nations. Foreign policy is actually the specific strategies and frameworks a government uses to manage its international interactions. It's very important to have international interactions in the foreign policy, so as to keep ties with the world. And diplomacy also plays a major role. It's a primary tool used by the states to negotiate, build alliances, and resolve conflicts peacefully without resorting to war. For example, when we talk about the current situation, ongoing war between US and Iran, that has also created havoc in the world. That is also leading to the loss of innocent lives in the world, and the world is really tensed. And diplomacy is working, for example, is a consequence of diplomatic efforts by Pakistan. Islamabad talks came into existence, and then peace was restored again through negotiations, through diplomacy. But once again, war is again broken out, which is again leading to hundreds of thousands innocent lives. Global governance, it's, the shared decision making and management of challenges that transcend borders, such as climate change, pandemics, and terrorism. For example, at the world levels, at the global levels, when we talk about, because the serious threats to the world even these days are the climate change, And it was 2019 when the pandemics, COVID-19 was there. There it also created havoc in the world and chaos. And terrorism, of course, it's there. And it's the shared decision making where all the stakeholders, they take one decision and then make alliances and try to resolve the conflicts that the world is faced with. Now, why to study international relations? The major concern of going through international relations is understanding the causes of war and peace. Because, countries, they always look at their national interests as a sad. Because if there are wars, for example, again, if there is a conflict, if there is a clash of interest, for example, then the countries, the nations go for the wars. And the peace, yes, again, it depends on the cooperation, coordination, and bilateral relations between the countries that can lead to the peace. Secondly, promoting successful trade policies between nations. Yes, that's also very decided because very important, because a country has to survive, a country has to grow and prosper ultimately. For that purpose, it's very important to trade, because trading is very positive. Trading is a survival. Once we are trading, our economy can grow. So yes, once there are successful trade policies between the nations, that particular nation will turn out to be the prosperous and advanced one in the world. Then thirdly, analyzing dynamics of power, security, and diplomacy. It's also very crucial to understand, analyze the power dynamics, the security concerns, and security, collaborations and memorandums of understanding, navigating the complexities of globalization. Core concepts of international relations are, the very first one is sovereignty. Sovereignty is actually the ability, authority of a state to govern itself without external interference, because no nation will be tolerating or bearing any sort of interference, because its priority is to maintain its sovereignty. Every nation, may it be comprising of the bigger population or even the smaller population, but again, it has to maintain its sovereignty, no compromise on it. The ability of a state to achieve its preferred outcomes in the international affairs. For example, to face the international situation, a nation has to have its own power. And even in the international affairs, it has to have its own hegemony with the help of some alliances. Then its national interest, what a state considers beneficial for its security and well-being, it's the national interest. And no country is ready, or no country will be in a position to formulate a policy that should harm the national interest. Security, it's the protection from threats, both military and non-military. A country at its borders needs security. And that is why, for example, third world countries spend hefty budgets on their defense, on their security. Diplomacy, the art of negotiation and managing relations between states. Now, level of analysis, when we look at international relations, for example, there are some layers, there are some levels. The very first one is individual level, in which we analyze the role of leaders, their psychology and decision making, how they are and how they are taking decisions. For example, either those decisions are going to provide relief, if it is the local ones, internal ones, relief to the public. And then if those decisions are at the global levels, then we have to see, for example, these decisions are going to create a sort of impact, or they are going to reduce the problems or challenges the world is faced with, for example, climate change, for example, terrorism and pandemics. State level, and then of course, it's the bigger than the individual one, where we have to look at domestic politics, economic system, and national characteristics, how the domestic politics works, and how economic system is running or it's being channelized. Systematic level, the structure of international system. For example, when we talk about systematic level at the global level, before USSR became Russia, So the order of the world was bipolar. These days it's unipolar, the sole superpower. And what I foresee in future, the world order could be multipolar because every country or every blocks, regional dominant powers, they need their own, status, hegemony, and that is why I foresee the world is a multipolar and the distribution of power. So major schools of thought and theories, the very first theory is realism. Its core idea is that international relations is a struggle for power in an anarchic system. There's no global government. Its key assumptions are, for example, states are the most important actors. States are rational and seek survival. Security is a primary goal, for example. Yes, of course. Every state needs security, and no state is in a position to compromise on its security, and that is why they are rational and their policies are designed and formulated accordingly. Key concepts: balance of power, military strength, national interests. Second theory is liberalism, and here the core idea is cooperation is possible despite anarchy. Even if, there is chaos and chaotic situation in the country, but cooperation and coordination are very crucial. International institutions can mitigate conflict. Its key assumptions are multiple actors matter, for example, states, for example, IGOs, NGOs. Economic interdependence reduces conflict. Democracy and trade promote peace. Of course, democratic states are always in the welfare environment of the public and its masses. Key concepts are international law, institutions, UN, WTO, collective security. Third theory is constructivism. Its core idea is international relations are socially constructed. Ideas, norms, and identities matter because we have to respect the even if the ideology is in minority, it is to be respected, and identities are to be recognized, and norms are to be exercised in a well manner. Key argument in our case, what states make of it. The system is shaped by how states perceive each other. Of course, states look broadly. In the broader sense, they see their own interests and public cannot perceive those interests. Key concepts are national identity, culture, norms, and shared beliefs that shape the state behavior. Now, what are the contemporary challenges in IR? For example, great power competition, rising tensions between US, China, Russia, and these days it's US, Iran, which is the ongoing one, and it is prolonged. And then again, Russia, Ukraine, that these wars are also creating tensions in the world as well. The rise of global South, new blocs challenging Western dominance, especially Shanghai Cooperation Organization, in which Russia and China, they are the key members. They are the pioneers. Iran is also one of the active members of SEO. Geopolitical fragmentation, security, trade, and technology are now instruments of strategic competition. Regional conflicts, ongoing wars, and territorial disputes, global governance crisis, strain on traditional institutions like UN and G7. The future, what can we see the future of international relations? It leads to adapting to a multipolar world order. Yes, that's quite visible and foreseeable. Managing economic nationalism and trade wars. There will be wars on trade. Is ongoing war. For example, there is a conflict on water issues between India and Pakistan. Addressing global common issues, climate change, cybersecurity, pandemics. Yes, these will be, the challenges. Evolving role of technology and AI in global politics. Yes, AI is working in education and politics also in formulating governments too. And next important theme of my discussion is global governance. When you look at this, for example, it represents the governance, and here it's global. When I say global, for example, there come so many issues: legal procedures, governance, law, enforcement agencies, policies, foreign policy, business, trade, security, and all. So let me tell you what global governance actually is. Global governance can be defined as a system of institutions, rules, norms, and procedures that enable international cooperation on issues that cross national borders. Their concern is to address and finally come up with the resolutions so as to seize or reduce those problems in the world. These issues include economic development, trade, human rights, peace and security, and environmental protection. Now, the system aims to facilitate decision making and cooperation among international actors, including states, intergovernmental organizations, business, non-governmental organizations, and other parts of the civil society. The goal of global governance is to find and manage collective solutions to global challenges. As I said, once there are global challenges, are the stakeholders, especially the key nations, they have to work, they have to sit on one negotiating table to share deliberations and negotiations so as to come up with the solution which is stable, long-lasting, and permanent, so that the world might not face such challenges in time to come. Another perspective of global governance is also, that could be the irony, for example, being, that can be truth as well. Being so, global governance is an order based on set rules, even without government. That means, those policies, that sort of governance at the global level, that doesn't work. It's only for the weak. And when it comes to the accountability of the stronger nations, those who are hegemonic states, they are in hegemony. What about accountability from them? Why global governance matters? In today's interconnected world, there are many challenges that require globally coordinated solutions. Global governance creates a system for countries and other international actors to cooperate and make decisions together to effectively manage these shared risks. You can see that, for example, the world is prone to shared risks. All these stakeholders, they have their own value, they have their own status and own importance. On the basis of democratic principles, their vote of consent, their agreement, their mutual cooperation is quite essential. Now, what is the people's approach to global governance? People believe that the current system is insufficient, inadequate at handling the scale and complexity of today's global challenges. They believe that the world is being dragged into wars at the global level where humanity suffers the most. That's a reality. And it's the humanity, it's the weak, it's the poor, it's the old, it's the women, and it's the children who suffer the most. Let's talk of war in Palestine. Palestinian children, Palestinian women, they suffer the most. Genuine concerns are not being heard and subsequently resolved democratically. Democracy must prevail in its true sense. Now, strategies to strengthen global governance. Yes, this is very important. And finally, I will say that there must be enhanced cooperation. There is a dire need for a stronger cooperation among nations and global actors to manage shared risks effectively. For example, whatever the risk is, a country which is innocent, a country that doesn't raise the voice, a country that doesn't have military support, for example, that doesn't mean that it should be victimized. Okay, and there should be enhanced collaboration. All the countries in the world, those who are powerful, they should raise the voice for the security, for the stability, and for its rehabilitation. Innovative solutions. Now, there's a need to focus on the development of new frameworks for global decision making to address emerging and complex challenges better. Inclusive participation, especially the world affairs are led by United Nations organization. Since its inception, is doing a good job, but it needs to be active and just and fair enough. The UN needs to prioritize the engagement of diverse voices in global governance to ensure that decision making reflects a wide range of perspectives. Means it should be democratic, means it should reflect the voice of every nation. Pioneering research, is the UN aims to, and UN must, it needs to drive change. Driving change by supporting pioneering research and collaborate with government global agents of change to better spread the findings and recommendations from research. Such research that needs to be conducted from the various perspectives in every nation, in every corner of the world, where the voice of every nation should be visible and policies should be formulated and enacted accordingly, which should reflect a sort of democratic approach to resolving the affairs at the global level. So thank you very much. And today's talk was all about international relations and global governance. It's very important to understand international relations and what are the interests of the countries and how nations share their vision and how nations safeguard their interests and how they collaborate and how they make alliances. So this is also very important. And then the next perspective, next part, that was the global governance that needs to be understood, and global governance should also be ensured in terms of the challenges the world is faced with. The challenges like terrorism, challenges like wars, challenges like climate change. Climate change and pandemics, these are could be easily faced, but the challenges of war, because the world is burning, wars are ongoing, innocent people are being killed. That's the tragedy. That's the pity. This must be stopped, and global governance must act democratically, must come into power, and should implement those policies so as to stop the war, so as to save thousands of innocent lives and to restore the peace. Thank you very much.